In this video, we will look at the 5 worst industries that you could pick to start, run, or grow your business in. These industries are notoriously difficult to run and have some of the highest rates of insolvency in the UK because they're very difficult to make consistent profits in and have enough cash flow for your business to survive. So we'll have a look at exactly what it is that makes these businesses notoriously difficult to work in so that you can transfer some of that knowledge into your business and you can avoid falling foul of the same mistakes. So the first one that we will start with is the restaurant industry, and in my opinion, this is single-handedly the worst industry that you could ever start a business in. The list of reasons why you should avoid this industry is longer than we have time to go into today, but here are just a few of the reasons why this industry is difficult. Firstly, you have quite a high capital outlay when it comes to opening a restaurant. Not only do you need to decorate the interior of your restaurant and make it look nice, you have commercial equipment in the kitchen that can be quite expensive to not only buy but also service and maintain, and you also need the shop front to look quite fancy too. Most restaurants will have in excess of about 1 million outlay just to get them off the ground. And that number is mind-boggling big, especially for people that have never ran a business before. So the second reason these businesses can be quite difficult to run is because you need stock. Now, not only do you need to hold stock, which always puts a strain on your cash flow, but you are holding predominantly fresh produce. And therefore being able to predict what produce you need so that you don't run out, and worse, you don't have to throw any stock away when it spoils, means that you're likely to have difficulty when it comes to managing your stock and not wasting your stock. Another reason is that these businesses obviously are very busy on the weekends. Friday and Saturday nights, they'll tend to be fully booked, but the rest of the week, and especially at lunchtimes, you can struggle to get people through your door. So that inconsistent cash flow can make it very difficult to run the business. And also, if you don't have a very good weekend, then it could mean that you just simply don't make any money that week. We also know that particularly in 2023, rents are increasing greatly. There's been a lot of public debate around business rates, got increasing utility costs, and wages are ever increasing too. So with this increasing cost base, it's making it more and more difficult for these businesses to even be profitable. So one of the reasons why I think that these businesses are particularly difficult to grow is because they are hyper local businesses. So you will only have so many chimney pots and so many potential customers in your area, and you will have a limit on the amount of people that you can seat in your restaurant. Therefore, the turnover of these businesses is capped. And at the end of the day, if you are entering into a business with the idea of scaling and growing some sort of empire, then the only option for scaling your restaurant will be to get more premises, and therefore you are having to repeat your success time and time again. Another reason why restaurants are quite difficult to run as well is because you don't get repeat spending. Yes, absolutely, you may get some regular customers that come in maybe once a month, or even some unicorns that come in once a week, but generally speaking, the vast majority of your footfall and your customers are going to be brand new customers that you need to get through your door every single day. This means that review sites such as TripAdvisor and Google Reviews can make or break your business, and it also means that you have to put a lot of time and energy into marketing to make sure that everybody knows that you are there. So the list of why restaurants are notoriously difficult businesses to run is endless, to be honest with you. This is absolutely a business model that I would be avoiding like the plague. So the second industry that I also think is not very easy to be successful in is the online marketplace, and by this I am referring to sites such as Amazon, Etsy, Shopify, all of these online marketplaces where you upload your products and sell to the general public. Now, these businesses are actually super easy for people that are brand new to starting their business to get going with, because you just simply buy or make a product, upload it, and you can sell. And you have a very large captive audience because the likes of Amazon and Etsy put a lot of money into driving visitors to their website, and therefore your potential audience or the potential eyeballs that you could have on your product is vast. So at the start, when you're trying to get your business off the ground and you need eyeballs on your products, and you need to figure out things like pricing, stock levels, even what products are and aren't popular, then these online marketplaces are a really fantastic place to get started. But if you're serious about scaling a business and growing a sizable business that can run itself and potentially even be sold one day, then these are one of the worst ways that you can achieve this. And the main reason why is because you are at the complete mercy of these online platforms. Take Amazon as a really really good example of this. If your product that you're selling achieves over a certain level of sales, then they will simply source the product themselves and stock it normally as an Amazon Prime product, and you will not be able to compete with Amazon Prime. Secondly, we've seen in the news a lot lately, the likes of Amazon and Etsy are withholding funds from the sellers. So even though you may have sold products to a customer, they will not pay out the money to you for up to 90 days. Now, the reason why they've made this decision is to protect their business against possible refunds and possible complaints from customers. But what that means for you is that you have to wait up to 90 days before you can receive the cash into your business. And when these are businesses based off selling of stock, you can't afford to buy stock up front and wait for 90 days to be paid for it. So you essentially overnight could have a 90-day hole in your cash flow that you are simply not able to plug. And finally, the biggest reason why I really don't like these online platforms as a long-term profitable business model is because you never own your customers. At the end of the day, even though a customer may find you on Amazon or Etsy or Shopify and buy your product, they're not really buying from you. They believe that they're buying from Etsy, for example. And therefore, it's very difficult to build up brand loyalty and customer loyalty, and you never really own your database of customers. In fact, there are some sites where you never even get the email address of your customer, and therefore your chance of continuing to market to them and making resales and making them loyal customers of yours is incredibly difficult. So I'm not saying don't use these sites at all. These sites are a really, really good place for brand new businesses to get started, particularly if you are inexperienced or you're trialing to see what products and pricing and things like that work. But they should never ever be used as your sole revenue source. So a really good rule that I would always recommend any business lives by is to never have more than 20% of your revenue come from any one source. So that's no more than 20% coming from one customer, one product, or one channel, such as an online platform, your website, or face-to-face sales, for example. So it's really important that as a business you have different multiple revenue streams so that you're not at the mercy of any one in particular. So the next business model that I would highly recommend you do not start a business in would be an events company. So the reason why I am not a fan of events companies and why I think they're particularly difficult to run is because you generally always have to source brand new customers and you don't have repeat spending. If you think about a wedding business, for example, people hopefully will only get married one time, or even if you cater to maybe corporate customers, they will tend to have maybe one Christmas party a year or one annual conference a year. So you may get repeat spending, but it would be very sporadic. And really what you want in the most successful business models is customers that will repeat spend with you month after month. Another reason that events companies can be quite difficult to run is because every event tends to be unique, and therefore it's very difficult for you to leverage anything that you have done before. So take, for example, a website design company. You would take that website and sell it to one customer, but you're not going to build a website from scratch unique for every customer. You are going to take some elements that you can plug and play and drop across every single customer that you work with. Now, in the events industry, people always want a unique event, and therefore there's no leverage, and you can't utilize anything that you've done before and learn from it and repeat it to speed things up and make yourself more productive and more profitable. As well as this, if every project that you work on or every event that you work on is unique, this increases the risk of your pricing being too low, and it also increases the risk of you making mistakes and having to potentially compensate customers or incur extra costs. And the third reason that I think events businesses can be really difficult to scale is because they require quite a high capital outlay. So normally with events companies, you have a venue or specialist equipment like sound equipment, lighting equipment, stage, rigging, that type of thing. So there's quite a high capital outlay. Now, unless you can make your business utilize every single one of these assets in every single event, then you potentially have assets that are only being used a handful of times every year. And it's a really good rule of business that when you have assets, you want to sweat the assets. So that means that you want to have those assets working for you as much as possible, because at the end of the day, if those assets are in storage, they're simply not generating any revenue from you. And that's why events companies can be quite difficult, because they require a lot of outlay for a lot of assets up front that will only be used a handful of times throughout the year. So the fourth industry that I think is quite a flawed business model and and is incredibly difficult to be successful in is the high street retail industry. At the end of the day, if the big names like Wilko and Topshop and Debenhams can't make it work, then what is it that you think that you can do differently and be more successful in? Because these big companies have absolutely every chance of success. They've got massive deep pockets and millions, if not billions of pounds behind them to succeed. They've got the best marketing teams, they've got the best buyers, and they've got the best finance experts and leadership teams. So really, if anybody was going to succeed in this industry, it would be them. And over the last 5 to 10 years, we have seen massive amounts of closures on our high streets. Now, there is, of course, the discussion about whether rent, rates, utilities, and wages are too high for these businesses to simply be successful. And do we need to have some sort of fundamental shift in order to save our high streets on a long-term basis? But the reality is that this is not going to happen on any sort of seismic scale. And therefore, these businesses just simply aren't profitable enough to be successful. As well as this, if you go ahead and open your own smaller shop, for example, a boutique shop on a local high street, then you are competing with the big names of the online brands like Amazon and eBay. And they have very deep pockets and very clever ways of driving traffic to their website. So if your marketing campaigns and your marketing abilities can't keep up with them, then you're probably going to struggle to compete with them. But speaking from a financial perspective, one of the reasons, apart from the incredibly high cost base of these businesses, that they continually struggle is because of the high outlay that has to go into buying stock. And this, of course, makes these businesses really, really difficult to manage from a cash flow perspective. As well as that, particularly if you're new to business or you have a seasonal shop, then this also puts you at quite an increased risk of having obsolete stock. So that would be stock that you just simply can't sell in your business. And you either need to sell it at a loss, or worst case scenario, you need to just simply dispose of it. So retail businesses do get a lot of bad rep, particularly in the media. It's no secret that they are very, very difficult to run. Now, the only time that I would recommend anybody taking on a retail premises and going into the retail industry would be if you had a very niche, fairly high ticket item that people are likely to want to touch or experience before they purchase. Think something like mobility scooters or, for example, musical instruments. You're unlikely to purchase a fairly high ticket guitar, for example, off of the internet without being able to hold it and feel it and experience what it's like. And what you'll tend to find is that they're quite niche businesses. So people will build up a reputation for being the only person, for example, in East Anglia that sells these products. And so you will get people traveling to you for your expertise and for the luxury of being able to experience the product before they purchase it. So that would be the only time that I would recommend that anybody goes into the retail industry, unless there is some sort of complete overhaul on the way that rent, rates and utilities are charged to businesses in this country. So the final industry that I think is built off of a flawed business model is the professional services industry. Now, professional services actually accounts for about 25% of all businesses and jobs in the UK. So this is absolutely massive, and this is the bedrock of the UK economy. But I'm not referring to the big consultancy groups like Deloitte or Ernst & Young. What I'm referring to is the one-man band, what I would call online sellers. So for example, people that might offer like BA services or bookkeeping or marketing, something like that. And whilst I do get the irony of me saying this based on the fact that I have a financial consultancy and training business, what I would say is the business that I run, Business Geek, is part of a portfolio of other businesses. So it's not the only business that I run, and I'm not planning on scaling it too big, and I don't have any ambitions to ever sell it, for example. So it serves a specific purpose in my portfolio of businesses rather than being the only business that I have. But here's why I don't think that this is a good industry for most people to go into. It's because there is very, very low barrier to entry to this. So competition is absolutely rife, because anybody with, for example, a job in marketing can just simply quit their job one day and set up their own marketing business. So there is huge competition, especially between one-man bands. But the reason why I really, really don't like this industry is because actually most people are not running a business at all, and they simply have a job where they are swapping their money for time. And that cuts to the very core problem with this industry, and that is that it is people-based. At the end of the day, you can sell your time and your expertise in exchange for money. And even if you scale to a sizable business with a big team around you, that remains the core of what you do. You are a people service-based business selling your time for money. And what you will find with these service-based industries is that as they grow, the hours that go into the business that can actually be billed to clients and generate revenue decreases, because the bigger your team gets, the more time that is being spent on managing the business. So things like team meetings and management that are there just purely to manage people, all of these cost money and aren't billable to your clients. And therefore, as these professional industries get bigger, they actually tend to become less profitable. Now, these businesses, like I say, have a very low barrier to entry. So that does make them fantastic for anybody maybe trialing their foot in running their own business for the first time. And when run successfully, they can be fantastic cash cows and generate quite a lot of profit, particularly if you stay as a one-man band or just take on a couple of employees. And that makes some really, really good lifestyle businesses. But if you're serious about growing and scaling a sizable business that you can potentially be an investor in one day or maybe even sell, then absolutely professional services is probably not the way that I would go. So as with all these industries that we've just looked at, there is not one individual thing that makes them notoriously difficult to be successful in. But what there is a package of things together, which means they are incredibly difficult to make consistently high profits when you scale and to manage the cash flow in these businesses. And at the end of the day, financial management, making profit and generating cash is at the heart of what every business does. So if a business is not built on sound financials, then you just simply cannot grow. Now, if you are in one of these industries already, it is by no means a guarantee that your business is going to fail, but it does mean that you need to be more financially savvy than most other industries. So build your financial management skills, make sure that you can make smart, profitable decisions, and that you really closely manage your financial ratios and especially your cash flow. And if you enjoyed this video and want other tips on how to start, run and grow a successful, profitable and cash flow rich business, then make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the like button, put something in the comments below, let me know what you thought, and also don't forget to join my Facebook group.